What's it really like to travel for a living? To quit your corporate job to pursue a dream? Today, I'm speaking with Miguel Santana, wanderer, YouTuber, storyteller, and my friend. Miguel has been to over 38 countries, and through his YouTube channel, he shares his personal experiences and stories with almost 100,000 people. We had a super inspiring conversation about dreams, traveling, overcoming your fears, and what courage really means. We also talked about the ups and downs of traveling full time and so much more. So without further ado, here's my conversation with Miguel.
I'm Fernanda Rodriguez, and welcome to the Adults Table.
Thank you so much for having me, my dear friend. F. Moreira Rod.
I'm so happy. Thanks for accepting the invite. You supported me in every single venture that I've had. And I started my brand in your apartment. We started painting shoes and like sneakers, you and me, in your mom's workshop in your apartment. Everyone should have a friend like that. And you are that friend for me. And other than our friendship, you're also a wanderer storyteller, and you have a YouTube channel with almost 100,000 followers and subscribers, I should say. You travel the world connecting with people with different cultures, sharing stories. You have what some people might see as a dream job. So I'm very excited to talk to you today, and thanks so much for being here.
Thank you, Ferdi. It is my pleasure. A little sneaky secret. Ever since you told me a long time ago that you were gonna have a podcast that at the time was bite-sized knowledge on Spotify.
Mm-hmm.
When you told me like I'm thinking about doing a podcast, like you for me was always the friend that I looked up to when it comes to creativity. And I was like, man, one day I hope she invites me. I'm never going to tell her I want to be there because otherwise it's not legit, I feel like. So when you told me that, like, would you like to be in the podcast? I was like, man, that's the invitation I was looking for the most.
Oh,
And I swear, I was waiting for you to tell you that on camera. So yeah, that's big time truth. And during a lot of times that when I was in need of creativity, when I was in need of that little push, you were also that friend for me. So thank you so much.
oh my God. That's so cute. I love it. All right, but let's get right into it. We were talking about this before started recording, but people might see your life and they look at you and they're like, man, I wish I was this guy, right? You're traveling the world. You go to India, Japan, everywhere in South America, Europe, like you're all over and you've gotten to know so many different cultures and live so many different experiences that again, people might look up to you and be like, I wish I was that guy, right? And they might look up to you and say, but I don't have the same resources as he does. Maybe they think that you come from a very rich family. Maybe they think that you've had a special background, right? Like you had a special condition to start this. So I want you to
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about your background, your story. How did you get here?
Well, yeah, that's actually funny you ask that because I get that a lot, like people think that I had a head start, that I came from old money, and that's not quite the case. Although I was never poor, like I was never in a very tough condition. I've always had to fight for my space, like I always had to find a way to make some money. And well, basically I've worked, I don't know, since maybe when I was 10, 12 years old, I was already cheering up kids at parties. I remember that was my first job. I've done pretty much everything. I've done handing out flyers for politicians. Like I used to earn so little money in this specific job. It was like nowadays with the conversion, like $4 per day.
My
And
God.
I remember a homeless guy asking me like, "How much are you making?" This I'm like, "Yeah, like 20 reais." And I was like, I make more money begging to people.
Oh
I'm
my
just like,
God.
yeah, I was just like, cool. Yeah. Anyways, so I used to like hand out flyers. I I was a waiter for a long time, and that's pretty much how I started kind of like saving up some money until I went to the United States. I went to the United States. Long story short, I spent 3 years and a half there playing football, and I got a scholarship to play football there. I had to learn English while I was a waiter slash doorman at a bar I was working at. So, I would work during the nights of weekends and all that stuff. And that was very good at the time because, like I didn't spend money because I was always working at night. I wouldn't go out with my friends. And I managed to, like learn English. I took the tests that I had to take to go to the US, failed twice. On the third time, I was fucking tired of this, and I was like, okay, this is the last shot. Finally got it right. Went to the US, spent 3 years there. And while I was playing football, soccer, as Americans say, while I was playing soccer there, I did a lot of different jobs in the campus as well, to help with the scholarship. My mom and dad would send some money eventually, not enough to cover the costs. So I would work as a waiter also in the cafeteria. I would also work as a cleaning person in the gym. So I would do whatever I could get, to make some money. And it was like that for like 3 years, 3 years and a half. After that, I went to Colombia, and I went to Colombia to become an English teacher. I was teaching English in public schools, a job for kids, which a job that I really did not enjoy. But it was an amazing experience because I got to live in a Colombian slum with a family that didn't speak English. So I learned Spanish there, like it's just, you have to learn Spanish, like you have no other way around it. So I learned Spanish there. I had the opportunity to see life, like see different realities of life, see how I would, little by little, I would gain the confidence and the trust from the kids, and they would tell me some very tough background stories. So, like I could see how privileged I was just for being in a normal house, so to speak, like with parents that love and care for you. After 6 months in Colombia teaching English, came back to Brazil after 4 years living abroad, and I was just very lost with little to no money. I probably had $400 on me when I came back. I did have a associate's degree, which is not a bachelor's degree, and for that reason, in my crazy mind, I thought I wasn't qualified enough. Like I had a lot of the imposter syndrome on me because I was like, man, I couldn't even like get a bachelor's degree. So I didn't think I was qualified enough. So as soon as I got back to Brazil, the first thing that I thought about was, let me just go back to what I know what to do, which is waiting tables. So I started waiting tables once again. And as the money was not very good, what I did, I started working in a butchery as well. A friend of mine has a Augusto, which is like a nice butchery, and I would work at this butchery and also at the bar as a waiter at night. So it would be around 10 to 12 hours standing every day. Weekends were freaking hell. And I remember clearly, I remember super clearly the day that I arrived home after, because weekends, sometimes I would work like 16 hours standing, 15 hours standing. Nah, terrible. And I remember this one day, I got home, I was so tired, and I turned on the shower and I sat on the toilet just to wait for the water to warm, you know? And I slept, I took like a power nap of 2 minutes, and the water was like, cha, cha, cha. And everything in the bathroom was wet. And I was like, man, I'm so tired of this bullshit, you know? I just wanted a sitting job. I just want a job that I can sit and like computer job. You know, I don't even know what that means, but I just want a computer job. And I did about like 3 months of that until I entered the tech company that we met. I did like 2 years of that. And after that, I went to the competitor, and it was just like pretty much just keep on the corporate ladder, so to say, in the sales life. In the pandemic, you know, I was very good in my job. I was not big on saving money, but I had some money. And when the pandemic broke out and I was in Tanzania, so, you know, I was already traveling. I was already enjoying myself. I always enjoyed and I always loved traveling. I was in Tanzania and the whole world shut down. And my ticket back to Brazil got canceled. So I purchased another ticket, which got canceled again. Another ticket got canceled again. At that moment, I already had no money whatsoever. Luckily, I was with some friends. Now, it's a crazy story. The news from Brazil, the Jornal da Band, big news, interviewed us because we were in Tanzania. We didn't know how we would get out of there. And when I came back to Brazil, uh, I was doing super good in my job, but they had to cut like expenses, you know. And I was a very freestyle salesperson. You know, I was not very good communicating with all the other parts.
Mm-hmm.
And first day I arrived in Brazil after getting a loan from my friend to buy the ticket. So I was in debt. I had no money left. Got home, and this my former boss at the time fired me in the day. It was
Oh
like, oh
God.
damn, yeah, it was a shit show really. But 1 month after that, I got the best job of my life. I started making like a very decent amount of money. I went from absolute bankrupt to like I've never made that much money my entire life in one single month. And all of that happened because I spoke English and Spanish, because it was a sales job, like doing English and Spanish.
Yeah.
And I would just like work my ass off during pandemic because there's nothing else to do. You are locked in your home. You're, you know, and after working in sales in this company, I finally went to HubSpot, which is a background we also share. And after 3 years of HubSpot, I was kind of like not feeling it anymore, you know, and I was like, man, what? You know, it was once a dream at school and everything, but now that I saved so money, you know, like I was always a big dreamer. I was like, what if there is more to life than just, you know, like saving money, you know, like what if I can actually make my biggest dream, my job, like how would that go? And then that's how I started the channel while I was in HubSpot, and which was one of the best decisions of my life. And when I finished with HubSpot, I was just like, man, not not doing this anymore, you know, like it's not gonna work anymore. And yeah, that's when I decided to focus full time on YouTube about what I would say 7 to 8 months ago. So yeah, here I am. It's a long story.
Yep, it's so fun. It sounds like you've lived so many lives in one life. It's just you've been so many things, and I love that because I always talk about here on the podcast, I always talk about two things. One, how our identities change throughout time. So you see yourself as this one thing, and then, time goes by and you do other things and you discover other sides of yourself, or maybe you get in touch with a dream that you've always had. And then now you see it as a possibility of life. So that's really interesting. The second thing is, I like that you mentioned that you started the channel while you were working a full-time job. Because sometimes we think that we have to quit our jobs and we have to just drop everything to start. And that wasn't the case for you, right? You started while you still had a full-time job. And now you're turning this into your full-time job, which is very exciting and very impressive. And a lot of people, when they compare the corporate life and a life like yours right now, so traveling the world, getting to meet different cultures, places, they have this idea of what it's like. They have this idea based
Hmm.
maybe on the trips that they take. They go on vacation to Europe and they're like, oh, I wish I could live here. I wish I could live in Italy. And they have this idea
Yeah.
of this amazing lifestyle. So I wanted to be very real with us here and share a little bit of the ups and downs, right? Of the moments that you're like, this is not what I thought it would be. And also the moments that you're like, this is so much more awesome than I once thought.
Hmm. So I think that the downs in my case specifically has a lot to do with the fact that I'm traveling on a budget, as I'm trying to make the channel a sustainable way of living and not burning my savings. I'm trying to make it as financially responsible as possible. So I'm most often trying to find the cheapest place to stay, and you can imagine how that goes. A lot of times you sleep with people snoring by your side. You sleep with questionable human beings by your side, with in stinking environments. So these are all things that I have to go through, and I mean this is kind of like a low. I think that the lows kind of change from time to time. There are moments that I'm really missing my girlfriend. There are moments, as we were speaking earlier, like you just want to like have that good friend by your side that knows you well. You don't have to like explain
Yeah.
nothing.
To
You
introduce
just
yourself, even. Yeah.
introduce myself. You just are. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Also, like a low light of this whole experience is the fact that you have to be conscious about pretty much every single decision you make every day for 8 months. Like for example, let's look at you. You have a routine, you have a job, you have your podcast, you have, the gym you go to, like you know your schedules, you know where your clothes are, a lot of the things you do, you don't have to really spend energy thinking about doing stuff in general, right? Me, on the other hand, every day I have to think about, okay, what I'm gonna eat, where I'm gonna eat, how much does it cost, where should go next,
Mm-hmm.
where should I go after next? Should I stay there 1 day, 2 days, 3 days? What will I record there? What is the best time to go there? There are just so many variables, and like this decision making fatigue is really a thing.
Oh, I see. Damn.
So yeah, so this is like the low lights. However, the highlights are pretty much like everyone else would imagine. It is a real dream life to a certain extent. The opportunity you have to like be in touch with different cultures. You learn not only about the world, but you learn a lot about yourself as well. Like what you value as a human being, what you value as, okay, like if I would live in a city, what ideally it would look like for me, what is important for me, what is not so important. You start being a lot more. tolerant, open-minded. I always thought myself as an open-minded person, but when you are in a, like when you are in certain cultures that sacrifices of animals are like a super highlight, and you're seeing that happen in front of you, and everybody's so excited and happy, it's a moment of ecstasy. It's like, how are you going to judge that, you know? So it's just like really very eye-opening, and in a certain way is also addicting, and yeah, it's just beautiful. It's just beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
The I just people everyone should check out your channel because when we say, oh, he travels and he records these experiences, it's not like he's at the Eiffel Tower showing the Eiffel Tower. Like Miguel goes deep in the culture, which I really appreciate. And I think it's awesome because you get to see the world. We get to see the world through your eyes and through the eyes of the people that you talk to, that you interview for your channel, that that kind of take you on that journey. So I think it's really awesome. And when you say the open mindedness, you've always been an open-minded person. I've always seen you as an open-minded person. But even when I watch, there are some of your most recent videos that I'm like, oh my God, how can people do that? And like you said, they're happy, they're celebrating. And it's so hard for us to understand that it's very eye-opening when we get in touch with that other side. We kind of burst the bubble, right? That we live in. We think that everyone thinks and sees life the same way as we do. And then through your videos, at least for me, I'm like, damn, there's so much more to the world that we don't know of and that we don't get in touch with. So thanks for sharing all of that with us because I think it's an amazing opportunity, I guess. And just so people understand, how many countries have you been to?
38 right now. I like to stay a bit longer in
Hmm.
countries, so I'm not really. Back in the days, I was like, man, I want to go to every single country in the world. It might happen, but it's not so much a goal anymore. I had plenty of times that I had the opportunity to, let me just go to that country and like spend one day there and say that I was there. Like nowadays, I like to spend at least 2 weeks, at least 1 week, let's say, in a country. So it's not as much as maybe one would think.
Yeah. And going back to the cultural aspect and things that you had to open your mind for, what are some of the ways that these places changed your idea of yourself and changed the way that you see the world?
Mm, that's a good one. For example, Japan. Japan is a big one because super, super hot in my mind. I was just there. Japan just reinforced how much I love being Latino, you know, how much I love the chaos, how much I love this, warm, welcoming, crazy way of being, um, malandragem, I don't know the best, like this, like the chaos really. But when you go to Japan, everything is perfect, of course, in the surface level. I would do some videos about, like deeper levels and how a lot of what you see is just fake. But, you know, the surface level, like you're not supposed to show emotion, you're not supposed to interrupt others, you're not supposed to talk loud with your friend, you're not supposed to like show emotions that
Oh,
you love your
yeah.
girl, like
Yeah.
everything, it almost seems kind of staged, whereas you go to Colombia, you go to Ecuador, in Guayaquil, for example, which is a city I was walking, with my Flamengo shirt. And like some people started screaming at me from the other side, hey, come drink a beer with us. And I spent the whole afternoon drinking beers with them, talking about life in the slums of Ecuador. That for me is freaking amazing, and that's for me, like, life is about connection, and I feel that Japan misses a lot in connection. The machines can be connected, You know, you go to pay some bills, the machine will talk to you what you have to do, how where you have to put the money and everything. You don't even have to interact with people if you want to live in Japan, you know. So that's something that Japan has taught me culturally, you know, how much I reinforce how much I value being where I am from. India, for example, India, which is a polemic for a lot of people. People, when think about India, they just think about the dirty side, you know, like how different it is. But what a lot of people don't know is that India is, if I'm not mistaken, the country with most religions in the world, with most gods and godnesses in the world. So, you know, there are literally millions of gods and goddesses, and there is so much tolerance, you know, there is so much respect. You know, I was there in Diwali, which is pretty much the most important holiday for the Hindu people. And the Hindu is the biggest religion in India. Even though I was there in the biggest Hindu, is their Christmas, so to say. I was there and I went to a Sikh temple. Sikh is a different religion, which is like, if I'm not mistaken, is the top four biggest in India. And I went to this temple with a Hindu family. And the amount of respect for the Sikh traditions to enter the temple, you know, it doesn't matter what is your religion, everybody's accept, you know. I really felt that in India, you know, people are a lot more tolerant towards each other's beliefs. And of course, if you go to India, you will experience also at some degree in certain areas you can experience a prejudice, but I did not see that at all. And people are very respectful regardless of what you believe.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. And while you lived these experiences and when you started, I'm sure you had a reason to start, right? Maybe just like when you looked for a corporate job, you wanted to have a job that you could just sit down and be in front of a computer versus being standing the whole day. And then you
Yeah.
started the channel. And then you've been doing this for now over a year and full time for almost a year. Why do you do it? Why do you keep doing it? What's your why behind it?
I think there are many ways of explaining this. I think that for starters, when I was a child, I already was that kid that would always try to remember the flags and the capital of the flags. And, you know, I really like this flag. What is about this country? You know, the weirdest the country, the more I would study about it. So I was always I never liked to study, but I was always like a geography nerd in a sense, you know. I would always be proud of like telling my sister she doesn't know about them flags, you know. So it was always there for me, in that sense. And as I grew older, and little by little, you know, you start seeing the traveling as something possible of doing. You know, you just have to enter a airplane. Don't be afraid, or even like you can be afraid, but still do it. And I would say that why I do this is because I really have a hard time imagine life different than this. You know, I legitimately do not understand how people cannot want to go to very remote places and like just get to know these cultures, you know, just like see the world as it is, not as you think it is, you know. So that's one thing. I mean, right now it's kind of like it became more and more part of who I am, you know, just the more you explore, the more you want to explore. It's really addicting. Every time I travel more and more, and the further you push the envelope, the more you also want to see how much further can you push, you know? So like, okay, I went there and like, man, wow. I really did this, like what else can
Mm,
I do? Like, okay, why not hitchhike in Afghanistan or something like that? It's just like
yeah.
it's really somewhat of a addicting feeling because it brings you this sense of aliveness.
Hmm. And you mentioned two things that I actually want to expand on because you said, oh, maybe you're afraid, but you do it anyway. And you also mentioned something in a video that was about courage. So I want to get into fear and courage because seeing the way that you live life, I think different things. First, you have to have courage to quit a job that's stable and that gives you a lot of money to follow your dream, right? That takes courage. And then while you travel and go to the places that you go to, I'm sure it also takes courage, not only on the side of things that it's like, oh, I want to put myself in this situation to get to know this piece of the culture, but also the courage of being seen recording. Some people are ashamed of that. Some people are like, I don't want to take my phone in the middle of the street and record myself, and people are going to see me do it. And I want to do this for a living, but I'm shy. I feel shy. So I think courage must be something that is very present in your day to day, I'm assuming. And I saw one of your videos. It's a great video, and I mentioned this in the beginning before we started recording. But I saw the video that you talk about the 1 year of the YouTube channel, and you said something that really really stayed with me, which was you don't think that to do what you do takes courage. What takes courage is to choose to stay in a life that you don't like. And every day you choose the same life that you don't like. That takes courage. So, can you talk a little bit about fear, courage, how you see it, how you approach it?
I I often say that fear usually is pointing you, is guiding you in the right direction, you know, because if you didn't fear this task, this job, this career, what you would feel towards it is indifference, not fear, you know. The more you fear it, probably the more you care about it. The more you really want it to work out the way you want. So it's not, I mean, it's not about not having fear, it's about not letting fear stop you, right? And yeah, I think I remember way back in the days when my psychiatrist was telling me, I was telling him I was very anxious about this and that, and he was like, man, use anxiety to help you, like anxiety can stop you from working or it can make you more prepared, you know? So if you are anxious in a way, like, I don't know if I can do this, okay, like break down why you think you cannot do this, you know? I think I'm not comfortable enough speaking with the camera. I think I'm not well spoken enough. I think I don't have enough material to talk about. I think I don't know how to record well. I don't know how to edit. Okay, so I have 6 points of why I don't think I can do a good job. And I try to address each one of them, you know? Um, for example, it's funny you mentioned fear because the day I decided to start the channel, I was living my absolutely dream life, living in Barcelona, about a year and a half ago or so. Was living close to the beach in a nice apartment, but I couldn't sleep. I was like having insomnia for many days, and I just knew it was this anxiety of why you are not creating videos, what are you so afraid of? And I was really, really, really trying to find a solution. I was really trying to just sleep it off. It's like, bro, just fucking go away of my mind, But you know that rather well because that book you recommended me, The War of Art,
Oh, yeah.
when the call calls you, it's just like, man, you cannot
Hmm.
hide from it. You cannot hide from it, man. And I was like, okay, I couldn't sleep, and I was okay. I'm gonna write down what are my fears. What objectively are my fears towards really starting a YouTube channel? And I think I already shared that in my Instagram a few times. It's just like, so I wrote down like 5 to 6 fears. And the more I wrote about it, the more ridiculously it sounds, because when it's just in your mind, like your brain, although it's very impressive organ, it is also some dumb. It's a bit dumb for
Mm-hmm.
some stuff because it doesn't know how to separate reality from what is really in your mind. Just so you're very anxious about this, and that, and the more you write down and understand your fears. So, what is one fear? Oh, one fear I remember was, oh, it's going to be a lot of work. Okay, but I already do a lot of work for one thing I do not like. So why not work for something that I actually care about, Okay, another fear. What if I become too famous and like it's hard to walk on the streets? I'm like, Miguel, shut the fuck up. So I would tell my fears, and then here I would kind of like reply like an honest answer to all of my fears. And I was just like, man, fear of being judged. Being judged by who? What are they gonna tell me? So
Mm-hmm.
it, it was just a very logical way of showing me, you are sabotaging yourself so much. It was good to see in paper, to materialize how much I was sabotaging myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, man, I do not care how unprepared I am. I would just go out there tomorrow, speak with the camera. I just have to get the momentum going. And I remember exactly where I went to record for the first time. I was sweating my balls off, speaking, like nothing to do with nothing. But it felt like, like when I'm talking about it, I'm having goosebumps because I remember how freaking afraid I was of like people looking at me, of like not knowing what to do, what to say. But with time, like nowadays, I couldn't care less. Like if I'm
Mm-hmm.
talking here and there are 100 people looking at me, it's just like, I even like it.
I love it. It's funny that that can change with practice, right? The more that you push yourself, the more that you put yourself out there, the more comfortable you become, even with the discomfort, right? And one thing that I think it's important to share with people is you don't have to start in the ideal state, right? You don't have to start with no fear, no risks, no insecurities, no doubts. Like what you're saying right now is the first time I recorded, I I wasn't comfortable, and you didn't wait for a moment that you were comfortable. You became comfortable as you went, which is very
Yeah.
important. And then the other thing that I was also hearing you say, and also in a video that you recorded, you said that your videos are also not in the point that you envision them in the future, right? So you have ideas, you have things that you want to do. You know that you're not there yet, but that is not stopping you. The ideal state is not stopping you. So can you tell us a little bit more about starting and just allowing yourself to maybe not be fully prepared, or maybe not being fully comfortable, or maybe not being in your ideal state, and keep going regardless?
Yeah, sure. I think that this ideal state is just a fancy name for procrastination. A lot of people like to say, when I get to this point, they try to perceive themselves as perfectionists when in reality you are just a procrastinator. It's just the ugly reality of the thing. I before we enter here on this video call, I was correcting a video about Japan, and I was just like, man, it's so far from what I expect. And I have 1 year and a half in the business. I watch like hundreds of hours of YouTube, of like editing videos, and still very far from, what I consider like a masterpiece. Like it's 30% of what I consider a masterpiece. It's like, I know when a video is like, okay, no, this is good. This is, I think I became somewhat of a perfectionist, but not in a way that it stops me. Sometimes I'm just like, oh man, like I have to upload this now because I have so many videos that I have to upload. I just have to get it out. And for example, one of my videos that everything I had planned is this is a perfect example of how you just have to get things done. A video that all my planning went down the drain. It was super hot in Qatar. I had planned 3 videos. I could just do one video because it was like 50 degrees Celsius. So it's like, I don't know, 130.
Oh
Yeah.
my God.
Yeah. So, I had a lot of material that I was intended to record, but it was so hot. I just couldn't. My phone would
Overheat.
overheat,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
overheat on my pocket. So it's just like a shit show. I would have to start recording at 6 a.m. until 10 a.m. and then go back home, still go down to record again after 4 p.m. It's just unbearable, the heat. So the 3 videos became one video, and I was just like very pissed on, man, how didn't I plan for this or plan for that? Still, I just try to find a narrative, making these 3 videos one video. And the next thing I know is the video that nowadays has 3 million views, that made me more than $2,000 and got me over 15,000 subscribers. So one video that everything was supposed to work in a specific way, everything went the other way. You just have to adapt,
Yeah.
and things worked out. I didn't even want to go to Qatar for starters. I wanted to go to Turkey, and the cheapest flight was layover in Qatar. So I was like, well, since I'm in Qatar, I might as well just make a video about something. And I did, and it was not a planned. Of course, once I decided, okay, I'm going to do a video, I did a lot of planning, but it was kind of like on the fly a little bit. Like, okay,
Mhm.
I had 3 days there. On the first day, I realized it was very tough to record. I was like, I will have to adapt this, and that. Yeah, hopefully, let's see how it goes. Let's just record a bunch of material and then cut
Yeah.
it, and hopefully it goes well. And that was kind of like a turning point. So that's all to say. You just have to do it, man.
I didn't know that. I didn't know about the story. That's
Yeah,
crazy. And uh, it gives me goosebumps. You know why? Because we have to let life work with us. We have to let
big
life
time.
work with us. We can't just we think that the best way of doing things is planning for every single scenario, and we have to plan. We can't overlook the planning phase or skip the planning phase. It's not to say that you should completely, avoid planning. That's not my point. My point is you have to get out there and do it, even if it's not perfect, even if it's not, ideal. If it you have to do it. Your commitment is with doing. And then once you're out there, life can act, life can work with you. And sometimes what goes against what you planned is actually what takes you where you want to go, which is so crazy to me. So every single day that you choose not to start is a day that you choose to not let life work with you. Every single day.
Big,
You know what I'm
big
saying? Like,
time.
and again, don't get me wrong, you have to plan. You have to have a plan. Don't just, I'm not saying that you should be completely reckless, but it doesn't have to
Not
be
at all.
perfect. It doesn't have to be, what you think it has to be, basically. So that's a great story.
Yeah, no, I think that as you mentioned, you should not be reckless, because my leaving all behind, was planned. You know, I was I started the channel before. I saved up money, you know. I can easily tell you that all this life I'm living right now that is already very tiring could could really become a nightmare if I didn't have money, if I didn't have means. I have friends who started the same type of journey, and they were like literally paycheck after paycheck. Like they could spend like €5 per day. That's not sustainable. Some days they would sleep on the streets, and like, man, I cannot do this anymore. So there is a certain level of a minimum comfort that I have to have. And as you said, I think that you have to let life surprise you. My plan was like, okay, so I got this amount of money, and let's say that I can spend that in 1 year. If not a single penny enters from YouTube, sponsors, or anything, this is the amount of money I have, period. I can spend that much amount of money. And little did I know that 3 months after I left my job, I started making like decent money. So I'm not burning my cash so much. I still burn a little bit for some experience, for this and for that. But it has largely surpassed my any positive expectations I had. But that's also because, one, I prepared myself. I set very low expectations. So I was like, all right, Miguel, once I decided myself, okay, this is what I'm doing now. I decided, and I wrote down for me, I have it very in my mind. Like I always have these when I open my laptop, is these are the expectations. Like my expectations were to not make a single penny until the end of this year. And it's just, and whenever I feel like, oh, it's growing too slow, oh, it's not going the speed I wanted, like, man, Miguel, chill the fuck out. Like I was expecting to have 10K followers by the end of this year. And this is always good to like remind ourselves on how we started, not let our ego win this battle. So just plan, but also you have to have courage, because
Mhm.
paper accepts anything. You can plan as much as you want, but it comes a time that it really needs execution.
Yeah, you said this in a video too, you have to dream with your hands. Like you
Dream
have
with
to,
your hands, yes.
yeah, you have to do it. And I've been working a lot on this as well. When you inspire me on this, on because I remember you told me about this, your goals and your commitment basically, or like your expectations, right? And I've been doing this myself as well with the podcast because when you start something, like it takes time. It takes time for that thing to become what you want it to become. And you have to be comfortable with the journey. You have to enjoy the journey and you have to allow things to unfold. And I think our generation really wants everything now. It really wants everything to work out the way that we want to right now. And if it doesn't, then it's a sign that that thing is not for me, or that, if it's not a huge success month one, it's because I made a terrible mistake and I should just go back to my old life. So I think having those like expectations and those milestones and those like small wins in some way are so important to keep going as well, and not just quit on yourself because you're like, oh, I don't know, I don't have a million follow subscribers month one, so I'm gonna quit this. It's like, what can you commit yourself to doing now, and kind of building up from there. So I've been trying to do that as well, and it's been helping me a lot.
Yeah, I think that the big question, and I want to ask you, like, do you enjoy doing this that you are doing? Do you
Oh, I love it.
enjoy doing, you know? And I think that's about it. If you are loving it right now, which is just job, it's just like work, work, work. You have to do every single thing, otherwise You know, like, you don't have a huge audience that craves your content yet. You know, like, you don't have sponsors asking you to doing nothing. You know, if you tomorrow close your laptop and say like, nah, it's not gonna, nah, I don't want this anymore. You know, like, even me with 100 subscribers, you know, like, life goes on. No one really cares. So it's about us.
Mm-hmm.
It's about we doing what we enjoy doing, you know? And if I enjoy doing this for little money or no money, I can just imagine how pleasant it will be when I start making real money out of this, you know? But if you have to enjoy the grind. If you don't enjoy the grind, it's just not gonna happen.
Yeah.
And what you said is super true about like our generation. I think even us included, the younger generations even more. Like, we want results fast. We want results fast. There is a very good quote I like. It has never been so easier to be successful with all the resources we have, but it also has never been so easy to be distracted. You
Mm-hmm.
know, so, you know, it's so easy to be distracted. You open TikTok, you have an infinite amount of content in the way you like, about the topic you like, the moment you want, you know, every single thing is right there for you to watch and just forget about your life, forget about your goals. But if you go on the opposite direction, I think that great things gonna happen, you know?
I love that. We are very distracted, and it's important to be aware of that so we can create strategies to go back to the things that matter to us. And it's great. Sometimes it's awesome to just kill time on TikTok and just be there scrolling for hours, but if you don't kind of realign to what really matters to you, then time's gonna go by and you're gonna be in the same place. So yeah, it's that's so important. And to wrap up, I want to talk a little bit more about dreams, and I want you to give the audience advice about following your dreams because I like to be very realistic about it. I'm a huge dreamer. You know this. I've always been.
Yeah, yeah,
I believe in like the stuff that I think is possible. You would laugh. Like I'm a big dreamer, right? I like
yeah,
that's a fact. But I also think that part of the part of achieving these dreams is seeing life for what it is. So you can also, you can have an amazing idea of what's possible, but you can also be aware of, your condition, what you need to get that thing done, the hustle, the grind, the things that you're not going to love about that dream, because it's not just going to be perfect all the time. There are going to be things that you dislike, and it's still worth it. And it's still worth it because you're pursuing something that feeds your soul. So I love to talk about dreams in a way that's grounded in like reality. And that's not to discourage people, but more so to show them that they can achieve it. Because if you just think of this as an impossible thing, then you think that, oh, it's not for me. No, it is for you. But in order to get there and to go through this journey,
yeah.
you have to see life for what it is. So I want to ask you how you approach dreams, and how like some sort of what you tell yourself in your head about
Hmm.
your dreams and the things that you want to achieve, and share a little bit of that with the audience and with people that might be afraid of taking that first step, or people that might be afraid of continue to be in the journey that they've already started.
That's a great question. It's very humbling for me when I get messages telling me that I'm an inspiration, that they want to be like me, they want to live this life and this and this and that. Because not not long ago I was on their side. You know, I was doing the sending messages to these people, wishing I was that person. Not long ago whatsoever. You know, the Miguel of 2 years ago, if the Miguel of 2 years ago spoke with the Miguel of nowadays, he would be like, "Who the fuck are you, dude?" You know, and it's a construction of character. You know, there is a quote I love, which is, and I even have it like pinned in my Instagram, which is, It's not about the journey nor the destination. It's about the person you become in the journey, you know? And it's really about that. I remember, for example, before I started the channel, I was trying to find a possible way for me to start recording. And nowadays, I'm trying to negotiate with myself a day off because I do not want to stop recording. But this doesn't happen over a day, you know? Sometimes I like to read over my diary, like months ago, in specific point in times. And I think diary is super good for you to kind of keep track of your mind because we forget how we were, you know, like we just come here, we think, but the diary really gives you like a good portrait of who you were at that period of time. And I remember reading some of the early months of the YouTube channel, and I was like so happy about the person I was becoming. Yeah, I was like telling myself, you know, like, man, you are unrecognizable. You know, like I'm very proud of you. You know, like look at what you are doing, look at the efforts you are making. And, you know, like not even 3 months ago, you were creating XYZ excuses not to do so, or to say that you could have been doing this if it wasn't for that reason. And nowadays, you just don't care. You just find a freaking way and do it. But this is not something that happened to me overnight, you know? At first, you have to start. And start however is easier for you. When I first started recording, I had no microphones, I had no tripod, I didn't know about light, I didn't know about talking to the camera. I just went out there and okay, I have to say something about the beaches in Barcelona. That's all I have to say. And I was like completely out of tune. But it's just about like, okay, you know, like I've done it. It's not a matter of it's good or not, you know, it's just there. So it's about the person you become, you know. Nowadays, okay, it's nice for being inspiration for other people and everything, but more of anything, it's nice to look back and and being more and more proud of my story, you know. There's a quote I like. It's like the work we do work more on us than we on it, you know. So the more you work and you do the repetitions, you're like, man, you know, like you become it, you become that person. So it's really about starting and repetition.
Thanks for all of this amazing insights. Any final words that you want to share? Anything that we didn't cover and that you want to leave the audience with?
I think just point out again the fact that it's not about the journey nor the destination. It's about the person you become. You just have to start.
Period. Mimi,
Period.
thank you so much. This was amazing. I cannot wait to see what's next on the YouTube channel. I cannot wait to see the Japan videos. I'm waiting
Oh,
for them. I think they're going to be awesome. I cannot wait to see what's next for you. I know that you have some exciting things coming, so I'll be here to watch and to cheer for you always. Thanks for being an amazing friend. Thanks for being here today. And I'll leave Miguel's socials here in the description, as well as his YouTube channel. Make sure to check it out because it's amazing and will open your eyes for so many things. So thank you.
thank you, my friend. As I said, you've always been inspiration for me when we talk about creativity. And also, you have always been a loyal and great friend. Thank you for having me. It's an honor and a pleasure.